even at a young age, 4, 5, 6, I could see the make out the differences of how I was living at home, what life was at home, and the school. Um, we didn't have a lot of resources at home, but at Shanti Bhavan, before we went for the holidays, they would uh, they would tell us uh, that or advice that we not ask our parents or demand for what we are getting at the school at home. For example, we had 3 hot meals in Shanti Bhavan, and sometimes my parents would eat the same meal thrice or throughout the day, or even eat leftovers from last night.
What happens when life hands you real sour lemons and no other ingredients with it? And then someone comes along and hands you sugar and hands you water and hands you a few other things. Will you be able to make lemonade or something out of it? Well, today we get to learn if our guest, Vinceya, got to make lemonade. Vinceya, welcome, my dear.
Thank you, Rima. Lovely to join you here.
I appreciate you being here. I'm going to start right off by asking, are you making lemonade in your life right now?
um, yes, I am. Um, so you want to know how, yeah?
I'd
Uh,
like for the audience to understand where you started and why I
sure.
said sometimes life hands you real sour lemons. Tell us a little bit about your background and then we'll talk about the other things before we elaborate on how you're making lemonade.
I can, sure. Let me start with the background and then jump into the answer. So, I'm Vinceya Edwin. I live in Bangalore, which is in the south of India, and it's like the Silicon Valley of India. So, a lot of tech companies, all of that over here, and I was born in a slum in Bangalore. So, and also belong to one of the most marginalized communities in India belonging to the scheduled castes. And my dad, and because of this, because of the caste and because of where I lived, we didn't have a lot of access to clean drinking water, quality education that was expensive, or food, basic necessities, medicine, food, none of this. And my dad, he was an auto driver. Mom had a lot of different jobs. She was a caretaker, she was a maid, she was a cook, because dad was always in and out of rehab. So she had to go look after him and did not have a steady job. Because both of them could not afford my education, but they also wanted a better future for me. They sent me to a school called Shanti Bhavan, and here education was free. And I joined when I was 3 years old, so 3.5, very tiny. And the model or the vision of the school is to take in children from underprivileged backgrounds at a very young age, and then provide them with not just education but also basic necessities, a safe community environment to grow up in, and then help them get out of the generational cycle of poverty. And that's what happened to me. I'm now here with Google, working at Google, earning very well, was able to remove my family out of the environment that they were in and provide them with a comfortable life. Yes.
Would you take me back as a child at 3? Shanti Bhavan comes along, which is a dream for a lot of individuals, but you had no clue what Shanti Bhavan was about. What was that like for you to leave your family, even though your living conditions are not the best at all. But what was it like to be able to move from your home to Shanti Bhavan?
For me, I do not remember any of the details, but from what my parents and from what our caretakers or aunties at the school told me was I was very excited to be there, unlike all of my other classmates who missed home a lot and some wanted to go back, would cry every day, would climb on a chair to unlock the door and run away, try to run away. They were very attached to family and wanted to go back. I was different, and I would comfort my classmates at the age of 4, saying that our parents would come back to visit on a weekend, and we should not worry. We should look forward to it. So yeah, I then I was very. I think for me, I was just very content with what I had over there because that was something I did not get at home. Um, uh, for example, I had a bed of my own. At home, we would
Mm,
sleep on the floor, and all we owned at home was a mud stove, uh, a suitcase to have store our clothes in, and a few utensils. This is all we owned and clothes. And whenever it rained, water would just seep through because our house was the roof was made of coconut leaves. So yeah, here it was just a lot of comfort, a bed, three times hot meals, and people to take care of you, a park, school. So yeah, it was luxury for me coming from where
mm.
I was.
What was it like to grow up in Shanti Bhavan? Because you went through all your high school with Shanti Bhavan. What was the education and the care for you guys? What was it like on the inside? Because you got to experience being in the school, and every once in a while you would go visit your family. So, what was it like in the school?
In the school, one, it was very safe. At home, where I come from, there's a lot of violence, gang violence, and that was how my uncle was even murdered a couple of years, 5, 6 years ago. And it's not very safe. You would have police coming and knocking on your door in the middle of the night, and you would have someone dying every other day, either from a sickness from drugs or from gang violence. Not very safe. Here, you had nothing to worry about at Shanti Bhavan. Just study, a lot of friends, a lot of people to take care of you, very protected environment. And so, one, it was a safe space physically and mentally.
Mm.
Physically, because we weren't constantly being attacked or in fear of losing our lives, but also mentally because I had my friends, my classmates, seniors, juniors, aunties, teachers to talk to, approach, tell them my problems, how I'm feeling. So I think it was a very safe space that way. A lot of other things, but yeah, just this is what came to my mind.
What was the education like? Because this is a boarding school. You're
Yeah.
literally there all the time and they provide everything for you guys. What was boarding school like? Because in a lot of places, you think of boarding school and you don't think of it as the nicest of places, but you're describing it as something beautiful for you guys. So tell me what that was like.
Sure. Yeah, when I explain when I say boarding school, even people in India think of the movies like associated with like Oliver Twist or Annie or all of these other these stories where it's not a very good place and you have to work all the time and you're not given food. Yeah, it was nothing like that here. Um, it was very quality education, one that my brother did not receive or anyone in my community. We had teachers and volunteers from all over the world. So we had exposure to a lot of cultures, languages,
Mm.
and ways of thinking. And so that was one. And the other one was, it wasn't, we just didn't learn in the classroom. We would go out to the garden or the rocks or just out into the environment to see and learn, or to just be exposed to a different environment, maybe where we would pick up things faster in a in a different environment rather than being in a classroom. And it was a lot of show and tell, at least when we were younger. So it was both visuals and practical, and a mix of everything. So that was another one, another very good way of learning, at least for me. And the third was, we were given special attention. So our classes were only 12 girls and 12 boys. It was not very big, so our teachers could afford to uh, cater to each one of us. And even with that small classroom, we would have like tuitions, or for some of us who could not cope. So that was also something that helped and was different from other schools that I know of when I hear from my brother. And yeah, just a very nice way of learning. And oh, there's another point that I would like to talk about. It wasn't just studies and education academics, it was also extracurricular activities. And that's where I felt, or I that's where I felt I was strongest at, and I could show my emotions, especially with singing and sports.
Mm.
So yeah.
What were some of the extracurricular activities? Because I know in the States, unfortunately, they're cutting back on a lot of the arts program and the music programs in a lot of the regular schools. So, what are some of the extracurricular activities that made life even better within the school for you guys?
So we had physical ed and sports, all of these sports, from skating to cricket, baseball, basketball. We had volunteers from everywhere, right? They would come and they would teach their sport from their country, or it would be what we were doing in India, soccer. My favorite was basketball. And besides sports, there was also uh, the arts, singing, painting, drawing, theater games. And we did have a lot of volunteers uh, from Broadway. So there's this program called, or this organization called, Artists Striving to End Poverty, A Step. And there's another one called Bay, uh, Broadway for Arts Education. And we have a lot regularly, even till today. They come and they have a summer camp, or they're teaching us to sing, play an instrument. So yeah, there are a lot of extracurriculars.
How did you guys deal with emotions? And I ask that because when you're growing up, especially when you get to the teenage years, you have a lot of hormones and changes. How did you deal with it when you're not with your family, but you're at school? Did they provide something to work through that?
Um, at I do remember we had counselors on campus when we were young, and this was even before the financial crisis at the school. When we had resources and could afford counselors, we had them come every Friday to talk to us, and this was one-on-one coaching at
Mhm.
such a young age, which was which is not something that happens in India. Mental health, it now it's more common to talk about, but at that time, no. And even then, we were given all of these resources and just allowed to talk about how we felt. But for me, yes, that did help. But just having a community of friends and classmates who you are growing up with, who you're not just there in school with, but also living with after classes. You would play with the same people, you would uh, be in the dorms, or you're just living the same lives, so it's easier. Or for me, that was a better way to express my emotions with my classmates, seniors, juniors, and yeah.
Was there any differences between any of you? Because when I look at regular high schools, usually there's the cliques, the popular people, the all the stuff that creates havoc in people's lives. Did that exist within the school?
Yes, of course.
And how did you
There
guys
was,
deal with it?
um, I'm thinking of how I'm gonna say.
Yes.
There were groups. There were, but not like the ones I saw or experienced in college. College, it was more divided by the language you spoke or the money you had, because then if you had the money, you would go to different places for lunch and you would talk about different things. So it wasn't like that, but in our own ways, we did have them. Um so how did I cope? uh Again, for me, one of my close friends, Pratibha, she's from my class. So when I was going through some problem with my classmates, I always, that was when I became closer to her. And we're still friends to this day. And yeah, that's what got me out of it, being able to share it with her.
I'd love to know what was it like for you going from school to home because you're living in what you call luxury compared to home, and you're a lot more taken care of and sheltered and promoted in a way for your betterness. But at home, they're still living the life that you came out of. What was that like to have to go home and see that?
um we would go home twice a year, from Shanti Bhavan, one for the summer vacations, a month long. Oh, I would always wait for those. And for Christmas, it was much shorter, but we got to spend this holiday with our parents. So that was for 2 weeks. And whenever I went back, I could, even at a young age, 4, 5, 6, I could see the make out the differences of how I was living at home, what life was at home, and the school. Um, we didn't have a lot of resources at home, but at Shanti Bhavan, before we went for the holidays, they would uh, they would tell us uh, that, or advice that we not ask our parents or demand for what we are getting at the school at home. For example, we had 3 hot meals in Shanti Bhavan, and sometimes my parents would eat the same meal thrice or throughout the day, or even eat leftovers from last night. So then, not demand and ask for a particular meal instead of maybe rice, pancakes, which maybe was a little more expensive and they could not afford, or toys or whatever we were given at Shanti Bhavan, not to demand because our parents would not be able to afford it. Instead, be grateful. And that's something that I learned at a very young age, and it helped me a lot. But besides besides not asking for this, there was also a constant compare. I constantly compared both of the environments, and that sort of till today motivates me to do better, and so that I can provide for them what I experienced. And so, for example, we had our own beds and our own cupboards to keep our clothes, and running water, which I didn't get at home. So then my dream was to get them a house that had running water and 24 hours electricity and a bed. And so today I do have that. And just when I was able to go out, travel abroad to other countries, living in all of these luxury five-star hotels, looking at the place and just looking at the interiors and what they had, and then going like, oh, that's how my house is going to be one day. And just it allowed me to dream, comparing both
Mm.
worlds, living in both worlds, and saying this is what I can someday live in and afford for my parents. So yeah, that's still a driver till today.
I'd love to know, because Shanti Bhavan took the time and the attention to bring in all kinds of volunteers that taught you things that a lot of people don't even get to experience in regular schools. And they also provided you the wisdom when you go home, don't ask for things that they can't afford. What else did they teach you that you go, oh, that was so valuable in caring about us and teaching us life lessons? Were they open in teaching life lessons?
Yes. There were a lot of ways we learned life lessons at Shanti Bhavan. So one was the morning virtue at the assembly. So each day, someone, a student, would come up on stage and read about a virtue, say, for example, kindness, generosity, sharing. Just read about what it is and how we can practice it throughout the week. So that was one way. Another way was Dr. George, the founder of our school, when he is on campus in India, he travels between the US and India. So when he's here, every Thursdays we would get together as a school, and he would share, he would talk about his experience, and just his life, about how he was uh, in the military, set up three successful jobs, sold them, started their school. So a lot on, not necessarily speaking on specific virtue, but with his life examples and stories. That's how I learned. And other ways are seeing these volunteers and teachers and aunties sacrificing the life that they could live outside to come here and look after us and be there for us. So these are the ways, some very direct and some that I learned from just observing and looking. So these are how I learned a lot of virtues of being grateful, kind, giving back. Yeah.
So the teachers, were they the one that you are referring to as aunties?
So yeah, let me clarify. Yeah, these are terms that we use in school. In the teachers, they taught us in the classroom. Aunties are the people who looked after us in the dorms
Mm.
once we got back from school. Or I don't know what reference. Some they are either called wardens, or I don't know what like the word that they use to call aunties elsewhere, but that's what we call them. Yeah.
Nice. So it made it more personal
Yes,
that
it
they're
did.
aunties. They're
Yeah.
there to take care of you.
Yeah.
I would love to know, as you got through high school and you got the chance to go to college, what was that like to transition from Shanti Bhavan, which is there for you all the time and helps you through things, and now you're in a new setting? How did you even get to college? Because you didn't have the means, right, to get to college on your own. Your family couldn't have afforded it. I'm really saying, asking you these things on purpose so that the audience really gets that you didn't even have lemons.
Nope.
Shanti Bhavan gave you all the ingredients in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really attempting to get the audience to understand that you were provided an opportunity and that's what got you to where you are. So what was it like to transition from being at Shanti Bhavan, through high school, and now you're at college? How did you get to college even?
Sure. So, college, Shanti Bhavan helps all of the college students, and me helped me financially to attend college in Bangalore. I'm talking about the top universities in Bangalore. There are four that most of us study in: Christ, St. Joseph's, Jyoti Nivas, and Mount Carmel's. Very good business and art schools. Science, they are also there, but yeah, the fees would be 1 lakh per year, and if I'm to convert that for you in dollars, which I'm gonna do now, it would be um, $1,200 per year, and this is we're talking a 3-year program, and so they helped fund the entire my entire college tuition, and it's usually an 80-20 percent. Shanti Bhavan takes 80 and helps like lets our parents give the 20. This is just to encourage them to be a part of it, part of our growing, and my parents couldn't afford the 20. And when cases like this come up or situations like this come, one was I got a distinction, scored a distinction in my 10th, so they said they're going to take it up and give me a full scholarship. So Shanti Bhavan paid the entire. But then they also look at circumstances where students' families cannot really find it hard to afford even the 20%, and then they also cover. So that's how Shanti Bhavan paid for me and helped me through college. So I could not. So I could just think about studying and not about how I'm going to get the money, which is real hard for my relatives, my own brother, my parents, because church, my family church would help fund for his college and school, but when they didn't, it was really hard for my dad and parents. And yeah, so that's the financial bit. And how did I cope, or did I even cope, coming from Shanti Bhavan to this very safe, secured place, coming into the world and living actually, I don't know, being exposed to a lot. It was hard. The first few days or weeks, I remember I was just crying because I missed being at Shanti Bhavan, missed having that community and being familiar with all the people I was with. So that was hard. Emotionally, it was a journey, quite a journey. And then the second bit was something even as simple as traveling, learning to travel, learning to deal with money. And So a lot of new learnings, that was one. And then just like I said, struggled a lot in college uh, because I did not come from a lot, or did not have a lot, so it was difficult sometimes to go out to these fancy lunches or dinners or parties with my college friends who could afford it, because I'm talking these are the top business schools, and most of the students come from well off backgrounds, and so that was a little challenging too. I did make a few good friends that I still keep in touch with today. And but I did not struggle, and none most of my juniors and seniors at Shanti Bhavan say this. We don't necessarily we're able to cope with the syllabus and the teaching because of what we got from Shanti Bhavan, the quality education and the ways of being open to different kinds of teaching methods and thinking. So it was quite easy that way for me. Yeah.
Just curiosity, how much does a family earn in your area where your family is from? So that there's a comparison to when you're talking 1200 for
Yes.
the college.
Yes. Um, I can talk about mine and then also an average. Most of the women from my community are maids, caretakers, working in the housekeeping staff. So most of the women do those kind of jobs, and the men, yes, some of them work in blue collar jobs. Plumbing, painting, cooking, all of those kind of jobs. But because of all of these gangs, at a very young age, boys are exposed um, to a lot of drugs. One, alcohol and all of the other drugs, but then also gangs, and they so influenced by quick earning quick money. Uh, so that's how they get involved in these gangs at a very young age, or they either stop working and then drink their days, morning to night they're drinking, and so I can say confidently that most of the children in our communities lose their fathers at a very young age, or they do have them, and but they're not necessarily around, and
Mm,
the women are the sole breadwinners of the family. My mom, uh, even when I was working at Amazon or when I was in college, she was earning $25 a month, and dad was always in and out of rehab, so we didn't have a regular source of income. And then so I had to in the college days sort to giving tuitions and then helping out at least with rent, and then slowly uh, mm, now stopped my mom stopped my mom from working. I did not want her to do those kind of jobs, but then there was also the health aspect to it where she really couldn't. And yeah, so now I'm the sole breadwinner, and this is how it is. It's the women or the families earn very less, and it's hardly enough to eat.
mm.
And yeah, there's not necessarily any savings at all. And for access to schools, you either like borrow, you get into these huge debts where the interest rate is a lot. So yeah, you're forever in that circle, and you can never get out unless maybe you have this opportunity like me and you're lucky enough to get quality education, and then you can come out of that system, the cycle.
I love hearing that because you wouldn't have had a chance if it wasn't for the care of Shanti Bhavan to get you out of it and even getting you to college and still staying behind you so that you can get through college. But you also went on to get a master's degree, right?
I did
Was that
recently.
also through the help of Shanti Bhavan, or how did that
Yes,
work?
sure, I can explain. Shanti Bhavan did help both with connecting me with a donor from the UK,
Mm,
who supported my living expenses while I was in Malaysia. That's where I did my masters, and he not only covered my living expenses, but he also gave me money so that I could send home because I was the sole breadwinner, and going to college meant there wouldn't be any money in the family. So he made sure I wasn't thinking about that, and So that was covered, living expenses and sending home money. And then the other was I got a full scholarship from the university. And this is also because they do have a very close relationship with Shanti Bhavan. And I had my interview at the school. Like, he traveled all the way from Malaysia. Sean, one of the people from our school, he came over at that time, associate dean, and he took my interview, and then that's how I was selected, with the relationship but also how I did. So yeah, Shanti Bhavan did play a role in helping me get through college, university, and a few jobs. Yes.
What did you choose to get a degree in? And was that your choice?
Sure.
I'll tell you why I'm asking these questions honestly, because I saw the Daughters of Destiny on
Yes.
Netflix, and that's how I
Yeah.
got so interested in Shanti Bhavan and reached out to
Uh-huh.
them and got to interview Ajit, and then was able to reach out through your school to you. So it's
Hmm.
fascinating to me how they're doing this and the impact they're having, but actually getting to know the person, like getting to see the joy in you for having this opportunity and how it's transformed your life. So, how did you choose your college degree, even? Because I know a lot of young women here struggle with what they're going to graduate in, what are they going to take.
I was in that phase too. Um, Let me even explain my degree. So I was in Shanti Bhavan. This was my thought process when I was very young, because in India you have to make a decision when you're in the ninth grade, which is very early. So it was hard for me to choose which subject at that time I was going to take, because then subject would determine career. Now, not anymore, but in those days. So I knew science was, for me, a struggle. Chemistry and math, oh, I could never imagine learning advanced math. So that was a no. Arts, I loved, I enjoyed, uh, and then there was business in the middle, which I was curious about to see what it was. But then arts at that time in India, or even now it's getting better. There are more opportunities. It was looked down upon. Or there were not necessarily a lot of opportunities if you took the art stream. So that was why I gave that choice up, and I was like, okay, let me stick to business and see what it has. So that's why I took business for my 11th and 12th and undergrad. But for my masters, it was more, I was still thinking of what to do. And I felt like, or I was told also, people shared with me that if you do not know what to do, an MBA will give you a general understanding of what is out there, because it covers a lot of different topics, and that was exactly what I experienced, subjects and topics. So that was one that I could explore where my interests lied. And another reason was because this college was attached. Uh, it was a sister school of MIT Sloan in the US. We could
Mm.
go to the US for a month to Boston, the MIT campus. So that was very attractive. Besides that, there was also a similar system to what we had in Shanti Bhavan, where we would learn in the classroom but also get to experiment with companies, and while we study, so work for them, and put in what we learned to with the companies that we were working to. And it was not just in Malaysia, it was in countries in Southeast Asia, and then we got to go to Dubai and Thailand and all of these other countries. So it was a very good exposure, again, culturally, classmates from all over the world, getting to travel to all of these countries, getting to learn a lot of subjects and know where my interests are. So for me, now that I'm done with it, I can say it was more a personal development and learning, and I grew a lot from it. Yeah.
I can only imagine. traveling to the various countries and being exposed to so many different individuals from so many countries. I think that's so beautiful in life when you get to expand your horizon and your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That where else would you get that?
Yeah.
How did you get to Google? Because is that an easy road to get? Is it easy for someone to get a job at some of the top companies in India or anywhere in the world?
So when I've been, I tried to work here. I've tried to interview here a couple of times before my master's, and it was quite hard for me in terms of even like the requirements that they had and expectations. And it was a dream from when I was 13 years old because Shanti Bhavan, with its contacts, took us to the Google office
Mm,
for for uh, just for a day to look around and look around, interact with people here, see what it is like. And oh, that day I fell in love with the office, how it looked, the themed offices, the oh, all of the complimentaries, the free food, and the people and how they were. So I fell in love with that, and then I started applying. I couldn't get in, it was a challenge. But during my master's, when I was applying, um, again, here Shanti Bhavan was like, here is an opportunity. Would you like to apply to some of us? And then I was one of them. And even that way, they helped. And it was such an easy and smooth process.
mm.
And that I owe it to my manager and director. Both of them made me very, very comfortable during the interview process just by sharing their stories in the beginning and making sure that I lost all of those nerves and nervousness. And that was one way. And just being very interested in what I had to say and my experience, hearing my perspective and how what I could bring to the table. So both it was a wonderful process. At that time, I was like, whatever the decision, even if I get in or not, I'm just so glad to have experienced such a wonderful interview process that I'm okay with whatever decision that they come. I was so satisfied that this is what I'll be leaving with at that point. But I did get in, so I'm happy. Very
What do
easy.
you do at Google? What's your job?
Yeah, I'm an inclusion program manager, which means I support employee resource groups here, advise them with career development or tying up with NGOs who have the same affinity groups. For example, I support the Women at Community in Google in the APAC region, and also the AGN, Asian Googlers Network, and the Filipino Googlers Network. And we are planning for something new too. So these are just some of the other employee resource groups that are there. It's just and our vision is just to make sure that everyone feels like they belong at the workplace. And because most of them come from these ERGs, employee resource groups, most of us come from historically marginalized groups,
Mm.
and we would need a community just to talk, to share what we're going through. So one that, and another one is need a push or an uplift on getting into manager roles, uh, getting doing better in the company, because maybe we did not have the resources when we were growing up because of where we came from. So just making sure a Googler in Google coming from these marginalized groups has everything that they need to grow in their career at Google and feel safe.
So they're kind of doing what Shanti Bhavan did for you growing up. They're doing it as an employee to make sure that The people that didn't have a chance, they do get the chances to continue to grow in their careers.
Yes.
I'd love for you to tell me, what do you think your life would have been like had you not gotten into Shanti Bhavan? Just curiosity as a comparison.
Sure. Um, First of all, I cannot imagine, and but from what I see and where my own brother and my siblings and relatives, neighbors are at this stage, I can say um, I would have been given an education with the help of church funding or other ways, my relatives helping my parents. So I would have been given an education, not necessarily quality that I could do or be here where I am. So and also I would have been married off or married by choice at a very early age, because
Mm,
that is the kind of dream that my relatives and cousins have or had at in the community that we came from. That's what we saw, and I think that's so important because you want to become what you see, right, or what you dream of. And our dreams was the people in our community getting married, having children, a family, and looking after them, working hard, doing all that it takes to take care of your parents and your family. That was our dream, the dreams of people in our community, the girls and boys. But since I got to study at Shanti Bhavan and see the opportunities out there and actually see women like me or people like me in uh, positions as principals or in Google leadership positions, or see there's so much representation in school and in the workplace that I could connect to and see, oh, this is what I'm going to be, this is where I'm going to go. And I was exposed to a lot of these opportunities. Now my dream is different, and yeah, this is where I could have been married off
mm,
very young, or to alcoholics, to everyone else. My cousins, for example, they are married by choice and otherwise too, but not in a very happy marriage, and they're just stuck because financially they're dependent on these people. But yeah, even otherwise, so I just cannot imagine a life
I'm
without
glad
Shanti.
you got the opportunity
I'm so
to
glad.
do exactly what you're doing because you're at a very young age, you're in your 20s, and
Mhm.
now you're employed with a good career. But you also mentioned you actually got to put your family into housing and to actually have some form of living that is not in the same area you were. Would you tell me a little about that? Because that's quite huge for someone young.
Sure. So up until even when I was working previously, we were still living in the slum in Bangalore, and my dream was to get them out of there. And it was hard being the sole breadwinner to um, to get them out, because that required a huge amount of money, which I was not earning at that moment. So there was a lot of thinking into that. But then also, I really wanted them to get out of it, one for them to experience, and one because I just felt constantly it that it wasn't safe for them, and I just didn't know if my brother was gonna live, or if he could survive there, or when his last day would be. And same with my cousins who are still there now. So that was always a fear. So that pushed me to get them out of there. And now we have a very good place which I can afford, with drinking water, electricity, away from where we are. But still, I go back to that place because my aunts and my other relatives are there. And the dream is for everyone to be in a safe environment, either change that the place where they're living or move them out of there. So that's the dream. I don't know how and when, but I wish that someday I'm able, they are even safe, or everyone there feels, yeah, that they
So
have
you're the
access to it.
breadwinner. You're the
Yes.
breadwinner in your family. You got your mom and your brother. And who else do you take care of? Because you take care of a few people.
My three cousins, I just help with their education and sometimes medical or other basic necessities, clothes, because they lost their father from he was murdered a few years ago. So I take care of their education, help with that, and sometimes my aunts who are maids still struggling with the $25 per day, still that much, or even 50 per month, sorry. And yeah, I try to help them with groceries monthly, so however I can, um, with basic necessities, either education, food, or medical expenses. I try to help where I can and when.
So they make $50 a month to take
A
care of
month,
their family. Okay.
25, 50. Yes.
Got you. Got you. Now that you're working and you're taking care of your family and you're taking care of cousins, have you gone back to Shanti Bhavan to do anything else with them?
Yes, I did. When I was studying in college, I would go back on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, to teach my juniors,
Mm.
the 11th and 12th grades. I would teach them commerce, accounts, the business stream, because that's what I studied and knew best. So I would help with that. And now not as much, because it's a rotational opportunity if for the lower batches to go
Mm.
after me, and then they experience that, or they get to volunteer there. But now it's more meeting up as an alumni. Yeah, and recently I even took up sponsoring a child at Shanti Bhavan that's like 2 or 3 months new. So I'm able to help that way, even if I don't go back to the campus. And I want to help more in whatever way I can,
I
financial,
think
monetarily, time.
I think it's a joy to see how your life has processed and what you've become, and also to see Dr. George's vision of allowing someone to become something and then turn around and help others. And we get to see that right in you, which is incredible because, again, you don't see too many 20 something years old that are taking care of their families and sponsoring other people. So kudos to you, honestly. What is your wishes for yourself as the coming years within the next 3 to 5 years? What would you love to see for yourself?
Sure. I'd like to get my family a house of their own, because now we're renting or leasing. So a house of our own, and financial stability is something that I really want, because down the road I want to help Shanti Bhavan as one of the people in the administration, or any way. I want to be there and do the work. So I feel like that requires me to just have a cushion or financial stability for that work, kind of work. Um, so yeah, these two is something that's on top of mind for me right now. Yeah.
That's great. Any travels?
Oh yes, I would like to travel every year. I recently traveled to Cape Town, Africa, with my best friend for one of my friend's wedding. So yeah, I want to see. I've been to a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, US, Dubai, Africa. So now I'm thinking more UK and Australia. So I would love to travel the world still. But I
I
wanted this
love
time. I want to take my parents along. Yeah.
I love that you're so honest about everything and so authentic in your answers and who you are. And for the people that show up and volunteer, and for the people that contribute. I really was excited to do this interview with you so that they see the impact that they're having, because sometimes they're not seeing it immediately, but now they've impacted you and they impacted so many others because of what you got to live through and become, which is wonderful. Vincia, if I put you in front of a whole group of young ladies that are in their teens, what advice would you give them in their teens? Because there's so many that struggle with a lot of things in life, and you obviously had your own struggles and your own background. So, what advice would you give them, teenagers?
Teenagers. Based on based on what I got and what I experienced, my advice would be um, there every step of my journey was possible with all of the struggles that I experienced was possible because of the people around me who helped me through this journey. So the advice would be if you in this journey while you are going through challenges, while you are going through life, not necessarily challenges, if you need something, there are always people who want to see you do well, who are willing to help. Just feel free to reach out and ask for help in whatever way. So yeah, that's just my advice.
That's great advice. That's great advice, because a lot of times when young people are struggling, they think no one cares, but people do care. They really do care. What about if you were going to give someone advice in their mid 20s now?
Oh no.
Really?
Is it gonna be any different? I'm just thinking how different it would be, right? Because the same applies to even now. I mean, every step of the way, right from when I was a teenager to now, it's the same. Um, Something else would be you are not alone in this. Uh, we wouldn't necessarily be going through the same things, but can connect or it would be similar. So just know that that yeah, that you're not alone and you have someone, you will have someone or find someone to talk about it or seek for help or whatever you want. I don't know.
Thank you for taking this question and allowing me to put you on the spot, because what you said is very valid. That's what a lot of people are looking for someone that they can connect with, that they can see that there are others that care about them. They're not in this alone. No one is in life alone. We're all in it together. For you, do you still keep up with some of your friends from Shanti Bhavan?
I do. A lot of my close friends are from Shanti Bhavan. Yes, two from college, two from a few from my masters and elsewhere, but a lot, most of the majority from Shanti Bhavan. It's just they get it. You've lived with them, experienced every single thing. You have so many memories with them to share, even if it's not, even if you're on different journeys now. You've lived it. You can go back to history, talk about the past, and you don't have to explain a lot of things to them. For example, what you're going through, they would just understand because they are going through or living the exact same similar life. So yeah, that's how I'm able to. That's why I connect with most of the people from Shanti Bhavan. I have this community, and yeah, still wanna still see myself being with these group of friends for forever. There's a safe space.
Do you see yourself as worthy?
I do. Um, um, Yes, I and this I'm fortunate to feel this way. I think because a lot of the people in my community struggle with feeling that they're worthy. Uh, because of what they don't have and not they, what they're not given, and yeah, where they are they don't. But I'm glad now to be able to feel that way. Yeah, so that's why I was laughing. I was just thinking of, yeah, that I'm lucky to feel this way. Thank you for asking me that question.
Vinceya, thank you so much honoring your time. I really appreciate everything that you said. We'll come back around in a later date and talk a little more about different things, but I really do appreciate you and love your honesty. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And to our
listening.
thank you. And to our incredible listeners, you can see that when you volunteer, when you contribute, when you do something, it really does make an impact. And it doesn't make an impact one time, it could continue to make an impact, just like Vincia is making an impact in the world. And please remember, our attitude always determines our altitude in life. See you in the next episode.